Hi everyone, my name is Amanda. As you all know, I'm going to take you through my PowerPoint presentation. So we're going to start right here, slideshow, and we're going to play. So first off, my vision statement was based around my future career of a special education teacher. So all of the concepts discussed kind of revolves around that concept. So for the first slide, I'm just going to read you my statement and then kind of dig deep into the meaning behind it and what I found. So I believe that all students have the ability to learn. Each student is unique, and it is my job to create a safe environment that harvests student interests. I love that, and allows them to use their differences in a way that is beneficial for everyone. Every student's voice is valuable and will be used to create a respectable, enriching, and exciting environment. I believe in creating a love for learning and will bring that excitement to class daily through teaching kindness, respect, and responsibility through the hidden curriculum. So basically, this whole slide revolves around understanding the value of my students' individual differences. I love the part right here that harvest student interest, kind of just like understanding and cherishing the interest of my students. All of them have different interests, and to kind of take pride in each of them is the most important. Um, in reference to the course material in the article, The Hidden Curriculum, What Does It Mean in Autism? It states that the hidden curriculum has an impact on our students' social interactions, but it also can have a huge impact on their ability to manage in the classroom. So basically, as I start my career as a teacher in the future, basically the impact that the hidden curriculum has, especially with children with special needs, is that it teaches them value and how to kind of interact and socialize with other peers. Um, in my vision statement, I kind of discuss the cultural perspectives of my future career and how to value all of my students' differences and embrace their challenges. The hidden curriculum states in the article, The Hidden Curriculum in 2015, another reference to course material is how schools recognize, integrate, or honor diversity and multicultural perspectives may convey both intentional and unintended messages. So the way you decide to teach the hidden curriculum is totally up to that teacher, and every student will have an understanding of how to kind of interact, which I think is really important when, especially for special education, they have trouble interacting. So, by having a teacher interact and kind of teach them how to interact properly is just very important. Almost more important than the academics, but not that important. Moving on. So, let's. Sorry, I'm kind of dragging it on, but I was really into this project and I really learned so much. So, basically learning the environment and the concept of space, place, and material culture. My classroom environment will be welcoming and well suited for children of disabilities. The culture of inclusion will be clearly displayed through the various teaching objectives. The physical space of the classroom will be accessible, for students, as well as a positive attitude to help promote learning. The classroom will include recreational equipment to help children be successful learners and active participants in classroom activities. Many children with special needs have issues with their motor skills. So by the part where it discusses equipment and helping them be active participants in the classroom activities, some children have issues with motor skills. So by providing the proper materials to kind of adjust my lesson accordingly so that child can participate is very important. As a special needs teacher, I feel it is important to conduct a classroom that will spark the attention of all my students. The general space in the classroom is most important, as it is the first thing you see when upon entering the room. Another thing that I would like to point out in the course material, the author Titman in 1994 enhances this idea. He discusses that for many, perhaps the majority of adults, some of their strongest memories and recollections of their childhood relates to places, often outdoor places. Feelings are triggered by memories of particular places, and places evoke certain feeling responses. That was on page 18 for all of you who want to go and look at that. I'm a firm believer in that. Many times, as an example, just coming from my perspective, I'll be driving around and I'll see a certain grocery store or a certain street, and it will automatically take me back to a place or a memory of, even if it was 3 years ago or as a childhood. Like, many places do trigger memory, and I think it's really important about learning about the environment around you. Lastly, the idea in my vision statement as teachers and future teachers should be their own inventor and creator of their classrooms. Obviously, as teachers, we have to stick to the rules and guidelines and follow the curriculum that's given to us, but everyone has different classroom management skills, and in life there are good teachers and bad teachers. I'm not saying that badly, but teachers have different ways of teaching, and I think it's great that the idea of being your own inventor really stuck with me. Moving on to number 3, the achievement and cultural biases, the achievement gap. In my classroom, I understand that all of my students come to school with unique differences. It is my job as the teacher to foster these differences, whether they be cultural, academic, or socioeconomic. I will differentiate my instruction to meet the needs of all my students and create a learning environment that is accepting of student differences and promotes individuality. Like I said, I plan to teach special education, so my favorite thing, and I believe I discuss it more, inclusion, basically including everyone in the classroom, no matter what their differences are, although it could be a room filled with children with autism. The autism spectrum is very large, so some children might be verbal, some might not be verbal. So to kind of bring them all together and kind of cater to their needs at the same time is my goal. Basically, my idea behind the achievement gap and culture is simply that it's being misled in many schools in today's society. In reference to the course material, the author Ansel, I believe you pronounce it, the achievement gap shows up in grades, standardized test scores, course selection, dropout rates, and college completion rates, among other success measures. So that kind of helps you see where there's high achievers and low achievers. As a teacher in this environment, it is my duty to understand and protect the rights of my students. So if I ever want to kind of use the achievement gap to my advantage, I would not allow my students to know they are being placed in an achievement gap. I would do it as my own, for my own good. I would never want my students to feel that one's smarter than the other. I'm just not a believer in that. So moving on to number 4, culture as a disability, interpreting cultural conflict in learning environments. As an educator, I will share my personal experiences of my own culture to testify that it is okay to be different and embrace your differences. Everyone will be welcome in my classroom, both general education and special education. I will help my students embrace their individual differences and help them avoid any conflict or lack of confidence. My learning environment will provide freedom for all students to learn comfortably, underlined, I love that, at their own pace. So basically, many students are unaware of the many cultures that are among them, and instead of asking questions, they judge based off their instinct. Due to this, children in various cultures learn different rules when it comes to communication. In my classroom, I want to make sure my students feel comfortable and that they share tiny aspects of their culture, like reading a book. If a child is different because of their culture, that doesn't mean that they are disabled. Every child has something to bring in their own unique way, and my students will help me to learn more about other cultures that I haven't been familiar with, and especially special education students. They are just completely unaware of that, so I want to kind of shine a light upon that and kind of help them. For slide number 5, we get into pop culture and core rituals. This is something I really discussed in my reflection paper. In my classroom, the use of pop culture will allow myself to better communicate with my students. Those students who are not interested in discussing historical details will have the option of connecting the lesson with pop culture. The use of pop culture will help me bring learning to a new level and offer a connection into media that provides educational value. Daily rituals will be implemented so the students will have a sense of routine and value of the classroom. So why is pop culture important? Many students, I'm one of them, not really a factual, historical person as much as I want to be. That stuff just doesn't stick with me. I'm continuously learning, even now that I'm in college. Like, I'm still kind of learning stuff like that. Some students relate better with technology and culture and movies and media, and that's totally fine. If students enjoy movies and that's their way of connecting with the course material, I think that is absolutely fine. In the article, Rethinking the Relationships Between Popular Culture and Schooling, Ideas from Cartoons, Teaching, and Education, it highlights the classroom rituals, which will keep the classroom motivated and organized. The idea of classroom rituals and participating in rituals within the classroom is an important aspect to both learners and educators. Educators, once again, lead the classroom and promote awareness, while the learners grasp the concepts taught and use it in their everyday lives and how they perceive it. Two students, for example, can hear the same lesson, and student A can completely get something different than student B, and it's totally fine with that. And I want everyone to have their own opinions, and especially with special education, I want students to just never be afraid to say how they interpreted something, and to just kind of be prideful and humble in their own self, and not feel they are being judged. So slide 6, culturally responsive teaching. As an educator, culture will be the center of learning. It will help display the concept for students of both communicating and receiving information. As a cultural learner, my classroom will acknowledge the fundamental meaning of all cultures and offer equitable access to education for students from all cultures. I will emphasize a positive perspective on all families of my students. As a teacher, you're going to be placed in different situations. With some parents might have a heavy accent, some parents might not be from this country. Especially throwing that in the mix with special education, that's where things can get misstrued and tricky. Having behaviors with a child or things at school, and you need to communicate with the parent of what's going on with their child, and that parent might have an issue with understanding. That's where it can get really, really difficult. But basically, as I plan to further my knowledge in special education profession, I think it's still important to practice and teach cultural diversity. Although some students might not grasp the concept due to their cultural background. In the article, Cultural Responsive Teaching, or I'm sorry, I believe that might have been a PowerPoint that I'm referencing. Yeah, the PowerPoint from the course material basically discusses culturally responsive teaching is defined as using the cultural knowledge prior to experiences, and it goes on to discuss performance styles of diverse students to make learning more appropriate. I think this is very important. You need to kind of be aware of what's going on. Even children with special needs, within my own classroom, I will take the time to consider and evaluate the lives of each of my students and be as connected to the family as possible. So basically, these are my references, and that's basically it. I know that took a lot, but I really enjoyed this project, and I really wanted to highlight all the important aspects that I learned. So yeah, thank you so much.